Good morning, everyone. Am I clearly audible? Let's wait for 1-2 minutes more for the other students to join, and then we will start. So good morning once again to all of you. And in the last class, we were discussing about the feedback mechanism in natural ecosystems, and we found that in the natural ecosystem, the negative feedback is more. So the negative feedback is required to keep the system in the performance range. Okay, negative feedback, it prevents the system from runaway kind of condition in which the system may destabilize and the entire ecosystem may die. And then we started with the keystone species. Okay, we looked at this example of blue devil, the water hyacinth plant. Is this example clear to everyone? It was an alien species introduced in India and it became a nuisance for the Indian ecosystems. And then we discussed about the classification of ecosystem on the basis of law of energy. So the natural ecosystem, the ecosystem which are powered by sun's energy, they can be categorized into two kinds: the subsidized or the favored ecosystem and unsubsidized or the unfavored ecosystem. There are some natural ecosystems whose location is such that the nature is favoring them and the productivity is high. And in some ecosystems, the man is subsidizing the any given ecosystem and productivity is high because of the intervention of man. Now the keystone species. Keystone species, this name is very important. Robert Payne, the concept was given by him. इकोलॉजी के अंदर अभी तक जितने भी नाम आए हैं वो सभी इंपॉर्टेंट है, एग्जाम के अंदर पूछे जा सकते हैं किसी न किसी तरीके से. So a keystone species is that species if this keystone species disappear, then the ecosystem might not be able to adapt to environmental changes. It may either die or it may shift in a new direction. Under the condition of stress, the ecosystem may either die or it will shift in a new direction. अभी थोड़े दिन पहले एक स्टडी न्यूज़पेपर में पब्लिश हुई थी that the Amazon rainforest they may convert into the grasslands, like the savanna type of grasslands. If the indiscriminate cutting of Amazon forest continued for 20-30 more years, then the changes may be irreversible and the entire ecosystem it may convert into the grassland. Why? Because the Amazon rainforest they are creating their own rainfall through transpiration. All of you know that for the moisture availability is very important for the occurrence of rainfall, and moisture is generated by the forests themselves by the process of transpiration. अगर ये forest खत्म होते हैं तो ये भी एक साइक्लिक वे में वर्क करता है. आप पहले forest को destroy कर रहे हो. When the forest is destroyed, the transpiration will reduce. The transpiration will reduce, the moisture availability, it will become less. And the forest, if the moisture available is less, then the forest can't grow. तो ये एक चेन रिएक्शन टाइप का है. फॉरेस्ट डिस्ट्रॉय होंगे, ट्रांसपिरेशन कम होगा, मॉइस्चर अवेलेबिलिटी कम होगी. मॉइस्चर अवेलेबिलिटी कम होगी तो फॉरेस्ट ग्रो कैसे करेंगे, और फॉरेस्ट अगर डिक्रीज करेंगे तो फिर ट्रांसपिरेशन डिक्रीज होगा और रेनफॉल कंटिन्यूअसली डिक्रीज होती जाएगी. एंड दिस मे हैपन इन अ टाइम स्पैन ऑफ 30-40 years. Okay, so the entire forest ecosystem it may convert into grassland if the amount of rainfall decreased beyond a certain value. Now, the keystone species, earlier it was believed that only the predators are performing the role of keystone species. They are stabilizing the ecosystem. But later on, it was found that any organism from plants to fungi may act as a keystone species. So a keystone species might not be the largest organism or the most abundant organism in any ecosystem. A keystone species is usually that species which is having a very huge impact on the food chain or the food web. ठीक है, तो ज्यादातर कीस्टोन स्पीशीज वो हैं जिनके चले जाने से एंटायर फूड चेन जहां पर डिस्टर्ब हो सकती है, जिसका सबसे ज्यादा इंपैक्ट होगा फूड चेन के ऊपर. All those species are keystone species, and some of the examples are tropical fig tree, mycorrhiza. So this mycorrhiza, this is basically a fungi living along with the roots of the plants, a symbiotic association of fungi plus the plant roots. I will discuss about this later on. Yes, this is the mutual kind of species interaction in which both the species are benefiting. The fungi, by the presence of fungi, the plant is able to absorb the minerals. For the mineral mobilization, the roots are needing these fungi, and fungi is getting a habitat in the roots of the plant, and it is also obtaining nourishment from the roots of the plants. So such kind of species interaction is known as mutualism, in which both the species will be benefited. ठीक है, ये फंजाई प्लांट की रूट्स के साथ में रहती हैं और इनकी हेल्प की वजह से प्लांट्स मिनरल्स को मोबिलाइज कर पाते हैं, इजीली एब्जॉर्ब कर पाते हैं. अगर ये फंजाई नहीं होगी तो प्लांट की डेथ हो जाएगी, और अगर प्लांट की डेथ हो जाएगी तो ऑटोमेटिकली फंजाई की भी डेथ हो जाएगी, बिकॉज द फंजाई इट इज गेटिंग अ होम टू लिव इन द रूट्स ऑफ द प्लांट्स, एंड द फंजाई इज आल्सो ऑब्टेनिंग फूड फ्रॉम द रूट्स ऑफ द प्लांट्स. Now, in order to explain the role of the keystone species, there is an ecologist, Paul Ehrlich, the name is not important, and he gave an analogy for how the species of an ecosystem work and contribute to one another. So, in his example, he said that suppose करो कोई एयरप्लेन है, उस एयरप्लेन को थोड़ी देर के लिए आप एक इकोसिस्टम मान लो, और आप सभी जानते हो कि पूरा का पूरा एयरप्लेन एक यूनिट की तरह वर्क क्यों कर रहा है, क्योंकि सारा जुड़ा हुआ है किसकी हेल्प से, रिवेट्स की हेल्प से, जो आप समझ सकते हो कि नट एंड बोल्ट्स, पेंच, इन सभी की वजह से पूरा एयरप्लेन एक साथ है और एक यूनिट की तरह वर्क कर रहा है. ओके, the plane is held together at its place by the rivets, bolts and nuts, and the entire plane is functioning. It is flying in the air. Okay, since it is flying, so it means that it is functioning. In the same way, the ecosystem also functions because all the components are at their own place and performing their role. Now he gave one analogy. Suppose अब धीरे धीरे जो पैसेंजर प्लेन के अंदर बैठे हैं वो एक एक करके एक एक नट बोल्ट को निकाल रहे हैं. They are taking out a rivet at regular interval of time. और इन रिवेट्स को आप स्पीशीज की तरह से देख सकते हो कि जैसे आप एक रिवेट खोल रहे हो उसी तरीके से, इसका मतलब है कि इकोसिस्टम से आप इस एक स्पीशी को हटा रहे हो. आप एक एक करके नट बोल्ट खोलते जाओगे, कौन सा पेंच खोल रहे हो ये डिपेंड करेगा. अगर आप सीट में से कोई पेंच निकाल रहे हो शायद प्लेन के ऊपर कोई फर्क ना पड़े, है ना, लेकिन अगर आप विंग्स के पेंच खोलना स्टार्ट कर दो देन द एंटायर इकोसिस्टम मे डाई. अगर विंग्स से आप ये पेंच निकाल रहे हो, रिवेट्स निकाल रहे हो, तो विंग्स माइट नॉट बी एबल टू फंक्शन प्रॉपर्ली एंड द एंटायर प्लेन मे क्रैश. लेकिन अगर आप एक सीट में से कोई कलपुर्जा निकाल रहे हो तो उसका इतना इंपैक्ट नहीं होने वाला. The plane will function, although there will be some disruptions within the functioning of the ecosystem for this plane. Okay. So considering the passengers to pop a rivet each time they travel, which by analogy means making a species go extinct. At first, the plane might not be affected much, but as the number of pop rivets increase, the plane gets less sturdier than before. And again, by analogy, the ecosystem continues to lose its stability. Now, there will be some rivets which are very important, like the rivets in the wings. If you will remove those rivets, then the plane might not be able to function. Okay. So you can regard the rivets at the wings as the keystone species, which when removed make the ecosystem less stable. ये बात समझ में आई जो एनालॉजी इन्होंने दी. So keystone species are those species whose impact is the most on the stability of the ecosystem. And some of the rivets may be so important that if you will remove them, the plane might not be in a position to, okay, it might not be in a position to fly. I hope the example is clear. So in the similar manner, the ecosystem works, and one of such species are the predators. I will talk about this later on to explain something. This is basically, what do you think? What is this? देख के कुछ लग रहा है, क्या चीज है? Ocean. Plants underwater. Yes, these are the plants underwater. And in fact, these are not the plants. This is brown algae, brown green algae. And the name of this algae is kelp. The name of this algae is kelp, and these underwater colonies of kelp are known as kelp forest. Yes. So we are having large colonies of these kelp nearby the continental shelf. Why nearby the continental shelf? Because these algae require the sunlight, and they can grow only in those regions where there is penetration of sunlight. So it is very impossible for them to grow beyond the continental shelf. They can be found only up to that depth where the sunlight penetration is there. So these forests are known as the kelp forest, and these are very productive ecosystems. I will talk about them later on. Now let us first consider the example of which animal is this? Can anyone tell which animal is this? Green deer. Okay. एक मूवी देखी आप लोगों ने इनटू द वाइल्ड? अरे यार, चलो मत ही देखना फिर, अब तक नहीं देखी तो, क्योंकि ऐसा भी हो सकता है मूवी देखने के बाद आप प्रिपरेशन ही छोड़ दो, तो मत देखना अभी. So this animal is elk. इसे देख सकते हो अगर कभी टाइम मिले, then you can watch it. और जो थोड़े दिल से कमजोर लोग हैं मत देखना, ठीक है ना, जिनके यहाँ पे कुछ चीजें हिट कर जाती हैं वो मत देखना. Movie name is Into the Wild. In this movie, yes, this is basically a biopic and based on the life of one of the young guy in the USA, and after his graduation, he just left everything and he goes into the wild and lives his rest of the life in the wild with all these animals. Yes, lives in a bush in Alaska. So I am talking about this. This is elk, and this is a herbivore. And it is basically an antelope, and it is found in the temperate zone. It is an antelope of the temperate zone. So in the earlier part of the 20th century, in 1900s, in the Yellowstone National Park, the area where currently we are having the Yellowstone National Park, so in that region, this is the main herbivore of that ecosystem. And the natural predators of these elk are wolves. Okay, the natural predator of these are the wolves. ये तो सभी ने देखे होंगे. ज्यादातर वुल्व्स थोड़े बड़े साइज के होते हैं. इंडिया के अंदर जो फॉक्स या फिर जो वुल्फ मिलते हैं उनसे काफी बड़े साइज के होते हैं. So the wolves are the main predators in the Yellowstone National Park, and see, the people settled in some portion of the Yellowstone National Park, and in those times USA was not having any protected areas. So some of the people, the villages, they settled villages, some of the villages near the Yellowstone National Park, and their main occupation was cattle rearing and agriculture. So what happened when they started living in the region of the wolves? So their cattle, cow, buffalo, and all other cattle, they were being targeted by the wolves along with the elks. इंसानों ने जाकर वहां पे रहना स्टार्ट कर दिया, और जो वुल्फ्स हैं अब वो इनके कैटल्स को भी टारगेट कर रहे हैं. अब कैटल टारगेट हो रहा है तो किसानों की इकोनॉमी हर्ट हो रही है. Humans settled within the Yellowstone National Park, and those areas were not protected in those times. People were practicing agriculture. They were also practicing the cattle rearing. So they are living in the region of the wolves. So wolves are naturally attacking the herbivores, which are the cattle. And when the wolves are hunting the cattle, the economy of these people was impacted. Now the government supported these people, and all of them started killing the wolves, which is the apex predator. अब wolves को एक एक करके खत्म करना स्टार्ट कर दिया. Then what happened? The population of elk exploded. When the population of wolves decreased, the population of elk exploded. The natural predators of the elks, now they are gone. Now the elk, they graze the entire Yellowstone National Park. There was no grass left for these cattle. Wolves are major predators of rodents. Okay, so do you want to say that they do not hunt the elk or the cattle? See, in that ecosystem, there are no lion, tiger. The wolves are the apex predators. Okay, werewolves, they are of large size. In the temperate zone, what do you think who is the apex predator? We are not having lions there, the tigers there. So the wolves are the apex predator in that ecosystem. The population of these elk exploded, and they grazed the entire Yellowstone National Park. There was no grass left for this cattle. Okay, again the economy is impacted, and this time the economy is impacted to a larger extent. और इसके साथ साथ ये भी देखा गया, it also impacted the population of the vultures in this national park. It also impacted the population of the vultures. Why? Because when the wolves are killing these animals, they eat some portion of the body and then they left it. On that leftover portion, the vultures will feed. And these animals, they grazed all the grass which was near to the bank of the rivers flowing through the Yellowstone National Park. When the vegetation along the banks of the river, it vanished, then the temperature of the river water, it also, because the shade is gone away, now there is no shade near the water bodies, so temperature slightly increases. The temperature of the water slightly increased, and it also impacted the aquatic life. तो पूरा का पूरा इकोसिस्टम यहाँ पर डिस्टेबलाइज हो गया. अब ये बड़ा बाद में समझ में आया कि यार हो क्या रहा है. Even the birds are impacted, even the fishes in the water are impacted. Okay, there is no grass left for the cattle. The population of elk is very large. So it is because you have eliminated the wolves, which were the keystone species of this ecosystem. I hope the example is clear. This is one case study, and you can also mention such things in your essays if you want. And basically this was for understanding. Okay, this is how the keystone species work. Now let us look at this example. In this case, we are not having a very large animal which is a keystone species. A mycorrhiza is a symbiotic association between a green plant and a fungus. The plant makes organic molecules such as sugar by photosynthesis and supplies them to the fungus, and the fungus is supplying to the plant the water and mineral nutrient. Basically, the fungi is helping the roots of the plant in the mineral mobilization, in the better absorption of the minerals. So mycorrhiza, it appears like this. Inside the roots of the plant, the fungi is living, and it is benefiting both of them, both the organism. The plant is also benefited and the fungi is also benefited. But in the relationship between the wolf and the elk, you know that one is harmed and the other is benefited. Wolf and the elk is definitely on the losing side, the wolf is on the gaining side. But this is one kind of association where both the organisms are benefited. This is also one type of relationship. And do you remember that in ecology we are studying these relationships? This is only one relationship. It is a different matter that one animal is being harmed and one is gaining in this process. But in ecology, this is simply a relationship of the ecosystem. There is a relationship between the wolf and elk in which one is being benefited, the other is being harmed. And in case of mycorrhiza, both the organisms involved, they are getting benefited. So such kind of association of species is known as mutualism. ठीक है, म्यूचुअलिज्म जब दो स्पीशीज साथ में रह रही हैं और दोनों का ही फायदा हो रहा है, ये एक इस तरह की रिलेशनशिप है. और एक रिलेशनशिप आपने अभी देखी जो वुल्फ और एल्क के बीच में है, एक का फायदा हो रहा है, दूसरे का नुकसान हो रहा है. Both are relationships of an ecosystem, and in ecology we study both kind of relationships. So in this case, you can regard this fungi as a keystone species, even though it is a microorganism. Is this clear? Now, even the plant species can also play the role of keystone species. The plant species can also play the role of keystone species. On the left hand side, what you can see, it is a tropical fig tree. This one is a tropical fig tree. अंजीर तो खाते होंगे आप लोग. So it is the fig tree. So in certain kind of ecosystem, in some forest, okay, it has been seen that we are having some of the animals which are known as frugivores. Frugivores are those animals which survive on the fruits, the wild fruits from the plants. And we are having a few seasons in which no tree bears fruit except the tropical fig tree. Okay, we are having in some part of the season no trees bearing fruits, and there is only one tree which is bearing some fruits. So these figs become a source of survival for the frugivores. Now imagine if this tropical fig tree is gone, then what would happen to the frugivores? And if the frugivores are gone, what would happen to the other animals which are depending upon the frugivores? So even the plant species can play the role of a keystone species. This question can be framed that the keystone species can only be an animal, it cannot be a plant. Okay, so the keystone species can be a plant also. It can be a tree also. Baat clear hui? Is this clear? So even the plant species can also play the role of the they can also play the role of the keystone species. Okay, so now let us commensalism, just wait. Okay, we will I will devote one complete lecture to the species interaction. Everything will be covered. Okay, commensalism, prey-predator relationship, all these things we will be doing. Symbiotic association, mutualism, so don't worry about it. Okay, now let us talk about this kelp forest. And these kelps are large algae, and they can be many meters high. Okay, they can be many meters in height, and they are found in the generally in the cold temperate waters. They are generally found in the cold temperate waters. So in these kelp forests, these smaller fishes, they come and they make this kelp forest their home. Okay, these kelp forests act as a nursery for their newborn babies. They are coming here. There is ample supply of food in the kelp forest. The kelp are themselves food for the species, and other species are also coming in this kelp forest. So fishes are also coming in search of those other animals. And the kelp forest is also providing a protected habitat for the fishes. They are giving birth to their new ones in these kelp forests. Now, in search of these fishes, the bigger predators will also come. The sharks and the whales, they will also come in this part. So it is a very productive ecosystem. Okay, this kelp is the very productive ecosystem. So it can be, the kelp can be regarded as the keystone species because it is maintaining the entire ecosystem. So if the kelp is gone, then all these species will be gone. Now, what happens in these kelp forest? This person will be having a bigger role, and it is, which animal is this? Yes, it is sea otter, and it is it is a hardcore carnivore animal. It is sea otter, and it is a hardcore carnivore animal. Now, what is this species? Any idea what is this? Yes, it is sea urchin, and also known as, because of its color, purple urchin. Now, the sea urchin is a herbivore, and these sea urchins, they feed on the kelp. When the sea urchins are in small number, so it is not any problem. The other fishes, they can also farm the entire kelp forest, and they can remove some of the nuisance creating sea urchins from the forest. They can manage them. But when the urchin population is very, very large, so what the urchins do, they just eat the entire patch of the forest in only a few number of days. Okay, they can just eat away the entire forest only in a few months. So these sea urchins, they can destroy the entire ecosystem. Now, who is protecting this ecosystem from the sea urchins? This ecosystem is protected by, thanks to the sea otters. So sea otters, they come to this part in the kelp forest in search of the urchins. They stabilize the population of the urchins and then they go away. So here in this case, the sea otters are also the keystone species. अगर ये जानवर है तो इसका मुंह किधर है? उसके लिए तो पकड़ना पड़ेगा दाऊद इसको. Okay, in order to see its mouth, we have to catch it first. And for that, you have to go to California. Off the coast of California, dive into the ocean and just catch one of the sea urchin. Only then we will be able to see its mouth. But one fact is very clear, that it eats urchin. The urchins eat the kelp. Okay, now these sea otters are eating these urchins and stabilizing the population of sea urchins. So the entire ecosystem is stabilized because of sea otters. The kelp forest ecosystem is found, it's most prominent near the coast of California, on the western coast of America. Okay, and it is a very productive ecosystem. This ecosystem is supporting a large number of species, very productive ecosystem, and it is also very beneficial for the fishing industry. Now, what is happening in the USA? The people are killing these sea otters. Okay, some of them are killing the sea otters for food, some are killing them for fun. So it has destabilized the entire kelp ecosystem. And in the last few years, the kelp forests have destroyed to a large extent. They have been destroyed to a large extent because the sea otter population is declining. Because the sea otters are hunted by a few people of sick mentality. Okay, some are killing them for fun, some are killing them for food, and maybe for the wildlife trade. So the population of the sea otters have declined, and the direct impact is that the kelp forests are shrinking, and they are shrinking very, very rapidly. One of the problem is that the sunscreens and all those things that we use on the beaches, those sunscreens, they also create some kind of disturbance in the metabolism of these otters. Okay, it has been found that all those material, the plastics and the chemicals in the sunscreens, they are impacting the metabolism of these animals. So we are directly responsible for the shrinking of the kelp forest, and it will have a direct consequence on the fishing industry also. So everything is connected in nature. That is why I am giving you these examples, and you can also quote these examples in your essay examination and even in your in the GS mains answer writing. सनस्क्रीन, ठीक है, सनस्क्रीन लगाते हो सन टैनिंग से बचने के लिए, बीचेस पर जा रहे हो, पानी में नहा रहे हो, सनस्क्रीन पानी के अंदर जाएगी. तो ये सनस्क्रीन जब इन ऑटर्स की बॉडी में एंटर करती है, दूसरे मरीन ऑर्गेनिजम्स की बॉडी में एंटर करती है, तो वहां पर कुछ प्रॉब्लम्स क्रिएट होती है. metabolism सही से नहीं हो पाता. So all these things are different kind of stresses in the ecosystem. Okay, all these things are different kind of stresses in the ecosystem. Now the sea otter is also a keystone species. It is controlling the population of the sea urchin, and some of the fishes here, some of the fishes also, they farm this entire kelp forest. They protect the forest from the smaller number of urchins. When the population of the urchin is less, they can just keep away the urchins from the forest. But when the population is very, very large, then the role of sea otters become important. They are the final stabilizers of this ecosystem. Okay. They are also known as the temperate equivalent of the coral reef. The kelp forests are the temperate equivalent of coral reef. So I think all the examples are clear. Even the tree species can be keystone species. The large predators can be keystone species. The small microbes can also be keystone species. Now, there is one more example. Before starting with the foundation species, let me give you one more example from the savanna grassland. This savanna grassland is maintained by, okay, I am giving you, savanna is a grassland, all of you know that, the grasslands of Africa. So my question is, who is maintaining the entire ecosystem? Okay, and by maintenance of the ecosystem, I means that the population of the grasses and the population of trees, their ratio almost remains constant. So who is responsible for this kind of thing? So is it the lion, or is it the leopard, or is it the cheetah or elephant? Whom do you think is balancing the ecosystem? So lions are also the keystone species, but the entire grassland ecosystem, to your surprise, is maintained by the elephant, which is a herbivore. Can the herbivores be keystone species? Yes, the herbivores can also be keystone species. The plants can be keystone species. The microbes can be keystone species. Even the herbivores can be keystone species. So what is the role of the elephant in this ecosystem? Let me check if I am having that slide with me right now. Okay, I don't think so. In the savanna grassland, I told you that few of the acacia trees, the babool trees are scattered in the entire grassland. Okay, we are having grasses and we are having a few acacia trees. And then we are having grasses in this entire ecosystem. Okay. This is the main USP of the grassland ecosystem. We are having large patches of grasses and then we are having a few of the scattered trees. Is this part clear? Now, all of you will agree that there is a competition between these trees and the grasses. The grasses and the trees are competing for the nutrients. Okay, and everyone wants to maintain their population. So these acacia trees, they can outcompete the grasses. Okay, they can just cover this entire area, and if they will increase in population, the grasses will decrease in population and the entire landscape may change. If the acacia trees and the grasses are left to themselves, then the acacia is having the capacity to just outgrow the grasses. So this entire landscape may change from the grassland to a forested community. like that. Okay, now the elephants, what they are doing is, what they are doing is, the bigger acacia trees, they uproot the bigger acacia trees and they eat them. The elephants are feeding on these babool trees, acacia trees, and especially the big ones. They uproot them and they eat them. सवाना ग्रासलैंड में देखो ग्रासेस हैं और पेड़ हैं, साथ साथ इनके बीच में कंपटीशन होगा। कंपटीशन किस चीज के लिए? न्यूट्रिएंट्स के लिए। अब ये जो बबूल के पेड़ हैं ये ग्रासेस से ज्यादा, ठीक है, ये अपनी पॉपुलेशन इंक्रीज कर सकते हैं। दोनों में से एक की पॉपुलेशन ही इंक्रीज होगी, जो ज्यादा न्यूट्रिएंट यूटिलाइज कर पाएगा उसकी पॉपुलेशन इंक्रीज होगी। तो ये जो पेड़ हैं ये ग्रासेस को आउट परफॉर्म कर सकते हैं इन रिप्रोडक्शन, ठीक है। अगर इकोसिस्टम को आप ऐसे ही छोड़ दोगे तो अकेशिया ट्रीज सारे पैच ऑफ एरिया को कवर कर लेंगे और ग्रासेस यहाँ पर कम हो जाएंगी, नंबर ऑफ ट्रीज ज्यादा होंगे, ये ग्रासलैंड नहीं रहेगा। ओके, अब हाथी क्या कर रहा है? हाथी कुछ ट्रीज को उखाड़ दे रहा है, खा लेता है, और थोड़ा समझदार जानवर है तो ये सिर्फ बड़े अकेशिया ट्रीज को ही उखाड़ता है। So the elephant is maintaining the entire ecosystem. Because of the elephant, this landscape appears to be a grassland. If the elephant were not there, there would be a scattered forest in this land. Is this clear? अगर ये elephant ना होता, we would be having a scattered forest in this land. Is the example clear to everyone? The elephants are uprooting these acacia trees, feeding on them, and they are also behaving in a prudent manner. They are uprooting only the bigger trees. They left the smaller trees. Okay, they are not uprooting the acacia trees indiscriminately such that all the trees will be gone. No. There is also some prudence on the part of the elephants. They are targeting only the bigger ones. They are maintaining the population of acacia. They keep the population of acacia in control, and the entire landscape, it remains a grassland. Is this clear? कुछ समझदारी है हाथी की तरफ से भी कि वो अकेशिया को इतना भी टारगेट नहीं कर रहा है कि इसकी पॉपुलेशन ही कम हो जाए. It is maintaining the population of these trees and thereby maintaining the entire grassland. So in the savanna, the elephant is, which is a herbivore, the elephant is a keystone species. Is this clear? Sir, are all keystone species prudent? Now that is a very difficult question. I cannot have answer to it. Okay, you have to ask this question to some ecologist. Although it is seen that only the apex predators like the elephant, the lions, there is no one controlling them. There is no one controlling them. If the elephants go mad, they can just clear all the forest, okay, all the trees in the forest in just 1 or 2 days. They can uproot all the trees. But the prudence is seen only on their part. The bigger ones, the lions, elephants. ठीक है ना? केशिया को कंट्रोल करने वाला तो है, लेकिन हाथी को कंट्रोल करने वाला कौन है? ये उसकी खुद की ही समझदारी है. ओके, क्लास में कोई ऐसा बच्चा है जिसको ये सब्जेक्ट बोरिंग लग रहा है? Is there anyone in the class who is finding the subject boring? मोहन समझ में आ रहा है? Initially, it was believed that only the big species like predators, the ecologists initially believed that only the big species like predators are the keystone species, but the certain plant species can also perform the role of the keystone species, like the tropical fig, the mycorrhiza, the fungi associated with the roots of the plant. It can also perform the role of the keystone species, and this fungi is essential for mineral mobilization and absorption by plants. The kelp forest of the coast of California. Here, the sea otter is the keystone species. The kelp themselves are the keystone species. Now, in many of the ecosystems, as you have seen in the savanna grassland and in the kelp forest, we cannot say that only a particular species is keystone. In fact, in any given ecosystem, we can talk about a keystone set of species. ओके ऐसा नहीं है कि सिर्फ कोई एक ही स्पीशी कीस्टोन होगी किसी एक इकोसिस्टम के अंदर. We can have a keystone set of species. So this is our final understanding about the keystone species. Even the herbivores can be keystone species. The carnivores can be the apex predators, and the plants can also be keystone species, and even the microbes can also be keystone species. And in an ecosystem, it is not that there will only be one keystone species. There can be many keystone species. So we can talk about a keystone set of species. Is this fine? I think the topic is completed. Or Stanford ecologist ने जो example दिया था, that is very apt. It is very similar to like the rivets of an airplane. If you are removing a rivet, it is very similar to removing a species from the ecosystem. That a species is going extinct. So when some of the species are going extinct, we may not notice it because it is not impacting the functioning of the ecosystem. But slowly and slowly, the sturdiness of the airplane, it will reduce, it will become less sturdy. And eventually, some of the rivets are so important that if they are removed, then the entire plane may crash. It may not be in a position to fly. Okay. Now the next topic is foundation species, and regarding all these, I will give you a write-up. I am working on the PDF, and I will complete it, and I will give it to the management. They will share it with you. Okay, I have done most of the part. It is 60-70% complete, and I have to add a few things. Then I will share it with the management, and you will get the PDF for the static portion of the ecology. It is 60-70% complete on my part. I will complete it, and then I will share it with the management. You will get the PDF for your problem of not making. I'm working on that. So now let us understand about the foundation species. The foundation species are those which play a major role in creating or maintaining a habitat. Okay, foundation species are those which are creating a habitat and then maintaining a given habitat. And the best example for this is the coral animals. Have you heard about coral reefs? So these big reefs are formed by coral animals. Corals are tiny animals, and they spend their entire life just by staying at a given place. They do not move around, but these are animals. They just spend their lives just like a tree. standing on a particular location. So not all the coral animals are like this, but the reef building corals which are forming the big reefs, they are of this nature. These coral animals, they do not move, they just remain static in one portion of the in a given area and spend their entire life there. So in this figure on the right, you can see one reef. This giant structure is a reef, and so many fishes are, colorful fishes are visiting this ecosystem. And this diver is coming to see all these beautiful fishes. Now, how this reef is formed, let me tell you briefly about it. Suppose this is any stone or hard surface, let us say it is some rock inside the ocean near the continental shelf. Okay, we are having this rock near the continental shelf, and this coral animal, it appears like this. So this coral animal attaches itself to the rock surface and it stays here. The outer skeleton of this coral animal, it is made up of calcium carbonate, and it appears like it is also a rock. Their rocky exoskeletons, they are made up of calcium carbonate, so their structure also appears like that of a rock. Now this coral, many other corals will come here and start growing on the surface of the rocks. Now this entire colony of corals will die. The new corals come and they grow over the bodies of their ancestors. Okay, in this manner, the reef grows very slowly, a few centimeters every year, and it grows and grows and grows bigger. So this entire base, it is made up of rock of calcium carbonate. Now their bodies are entirely what? Their dead bodies are calcium carbonate, solid rock. So they can grow, they can make the enormous structures which are known as coral reefs. Even we can have the islands which are of the coral origin. Is this part clear? जब कोरल रीफ पढ़ेंगे वहां पर डिस्कस करूंगा. एक एनिमल है कोरल एनिमल, किसी भी सबस्ट्रेट से जुड़कर पत्थर हो सकता है, टूटा हुआ जहाज हो सकता है, वहां से जाके अटैच होकर जुड़ जाता है. इसकी बॉडी कैल्शियम कार्बोनेट की बनी होगी और सपोज करो हंड्रेड्स ऑफ कोरल्स आकर इस सरफेस से अटैच हो गए, ग्रो करना स्टार्ट किया, अपनी पूरी जिंदगी जी ली, डेथ हो गई. अब इन्हीं के ऊपर, अपने एंसेस्टर्स के ऊपर ही नए कोरल्स आकर जुड़ जाएंगे, ग्रो करना स्टार्ट करेंगे, तो ये बड़ी स्ट्रक्चर्स बनाते हैं. See, their exoskeleton are made up of calcium carbonate, so it is having a rocky appearance. When the corals will die, what will remain? Only this rocky calcium carbonate kind of structure will remain. Okay. They are having rocky exoskeletons, which can create big structures around the islands and which is creating a new habitat for the other species. So they are forming, okay, the corals are forming the entire new ecosystem. Is this clear? So they can be regarded, and it is only one example for the foundation species. Is this clear? And all of you know that the coral reefs are very productive. They are productive, even productive, highly productive as compared to the kelp forest. They are more productive than the kelp forest. And one very fine example is the Great Barrier Reef of the Queensland's coast of Australia. Australia की eastern coast पर we are having the Great Barrier Reef. It is the largest known reef in the world and the only living structure which can be seen from the space. Only living structure which can be seen from the space. So this is all about the foundation species. Now we are having some animals which are known as ecosystem engineers. What the engineers do? Some of you are engineers. What the engineers do? They prepare for UPSC. Okay. The engineers can do any job in the world. Except medical. Yes. So the ecosystem engineers, they behave more like the civil engineers. Although people don't respect civil engineers, they don't use the right words for the civil engineers. And okay, anyway, the ecosystem engineers, they behave more like the civil engineers. They are constructing new things. They are building new habitats. I am not a mechanical engineer. I am not an engineer. Okay, I am not an engineer. I am from the pure sciences background. I don't believe in constructing, making of new things. I just want to give the ideas how the new things can be made. Okay, and I am more interested in the physical structure of the universe and the functioning of the universe. Yes, I am from the physics background. Okay, and that is why I am very interested in the interior of the earth. Now all of you can appreciate this part, how the face of the earth is changing. So I'm not having the bandwidth now, okay, to otherwise I would be taking your science and technology and I would be telling you about the Big Bang, the gravitational waves, all of those things. So I will not do that because I'm not having the bandwidth. Okay, guys. So the ecosystem engineers, they will be building new things by the use of the old and the decaying, like the discarded material. So ecosystem engineers are similar to the foundation species. They are similar but different. They contribute to the physical geography of their habitat. And I will explain this part. They create, modify, and maintain their habitat. For example, the example is the beaver. Otter and beaver both are same, and beaver is basically it is the freshwater species, and otter is it is the marine species. So beaver, this is the beaver. In Hindi, it is known as oot bilau. Okay, in Hindi, it is known as oot bilau and beaver. These are the ecosystem engineers. What these beavers do, this animal will collect the discarded, the stems of the trees, the woody part of the trees, and they will build a structure like this. By using the mud, by using the discarded, the stems of the trees, the woody part of the trees, okay, decaying leaves, by all that matter, they construct these small dams across the smaller streams which are going through the forest. So they have constructed something new, not by their biology, but by their physical activity. The corals are constructing a new thing because it is inherent in their biology. But here, these beavers, they are creating a new structure. they have created one dam by using all this material. So there is some kind of engineering involved here. All of you will agree. जितनी भी टहनियाँ टूटी हुई टहनियाँ हैं, जो भी फॉरेस्ट के फ्लोर पर जितनी लकड़ियां हैं, सबको उठाकर ले आएंगे and they build this dam. And when they are building this dam, they are modifying their own habitat. By their engineering acumen, they have modified their own habitat, and now the fishes will be living the dam which they have created, and all other animals will come and feed on these fishes. So ecosystem engineers, the best example is beaver. They create, modify and maintain their habitat by constructing something new. I hope this part is clear. And the dam formed by a beaver is known as a beaver dam. Okay, this is known as beaver dam. So उन्होंने habitat को modify किया by building something new. And it is not something which was inherent in their biology, as in the case of the coral reef. आप में से कुछ लोग पूछ सकते थे कि सर कोरल्स के केस में उन्होंने भी कुछ कंस्ट्रक्ट किया, यहाँ भी कंस्ट्रक्शन हुई, तो डिफरेंस क्या है? डिफरेंस यही है that they are building something new here. ओके, वहां पे एक्सोस्केलेटन उनकी बॉडी का ही पार्ट है, उनकी बायोलॉजी से रिलेटेड है, वो अपने आप क्रिएट हो रहा है. नाउ द बीवर्स आर क्रिएटिंग दिस हैबिटेट ऑन देयर ओन by using all the dead matter they discarded, the stems of the trees and all these things. Now this new dam, it acts as the habitat for the other species, and it also serves one purpose. Beavers क्या करते हैं? They just clear the forest land from all the discarded wood, okay, the fallen leaves. They just clear the ground surface in the forest, and it helps the forest to regenerate quickly. क्योंकि नीचे से जमीन एक बार क्लियर हो जाएगी, जो लिटर है सारा वो हट जाएगा. नाउ द सीड्स व्हिच आर फॉलिंग फ्रॉम द ट्रीज, दे कैन इजीली जर्मिनेट ऑन द ग्राउंड बिलो. ओके, जब नीचे जो फॉरेस्टेड एरिया है वो क्लियर होगा, इट वुड बी इजियर फॉर द फ्रूट्स एंड द सीड्स फ्रॉम द ट्रीज टू germinate in that soil. Okay, so this activity is also helping the forest to regenerate quickly. Is this clear? Okay guys, so this is all about the foundation species, ecosystem engineers, the keystone species, and we also discussed about the biological smoke alarms, which are the indicator species. So this thing is over, I think, and in the next class we will start with the ecological succession. How the beavers are benefited by doing this? They live near these dams. Okay, they modify their own habitat for their own good. They will be catching fishes here. Okay, Shram? Everyone is doing any activity for these two purposes, especially the animals, survival and reproduction. And for the survival, the food is important. A protected habitat is important. So for food and for a protected habitat, they are doing this. Okay, and the better engineers will also may get a mate. The best of these engineers among the beavers. Okay guys, so this is all for now, and we'll meet again on Monday, and hopefully by Monday I will share the PDF with all of you. Okay, guys. Bye bye.